You get a lot of handy accounting information over email, purchase confirmations, receipts, that sort of thing. But what if we could automatically redirect that email to your QuickBooks file? So the moment you receive that email, boop, an entry is posted to the accounting file. Beep, 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 beep. What? It's a thing. So let's build it.
Two hours later.
That one was slower. So this one works the same for Xero, QuickBooks, FreshBooks, Intact, but I'm gonna demo it with QuickBooks because I'm dead inside. The secret sauce that makes it possible? Email Parser by Zapier. We talked a little bit about this one a while back in an email automation video. Highly recommend you check that one out. But that one was centered on document management tools like Dext, HubDoc, that sort of thing. Something that's extracting details from those docs and pulling them to the accounting system. But what if you don't use those systems? What if you have a use case that's too small for them? What we're doing here is exactly what they do, but you're building it your mother self. So what we're doing today, we're just taking a humble little email, extracting a few details from it, posting it straight to the accounting system. So as soon as that email comes in, entries posted. Set it up once and forget it. So let's fill out a couple examples from common types of email confirmations. Amazon, ever heard of it? What have we got here? We've got a date, got the order amount, and because it's Amazon, you know it's office expense. Just kidding, kind of. But we'll use this as an example. We're gonna log into Email Parser by Zapier. You can log in with your Zapier account. We're gonna create a new mailbox for processing specifically Amazon purchase confirmations. The exact thing we're doing isn't really that big of a deal, that important. It's more for you to know how to do it for yourself. Here's the email inbox address. We're gonna come over to Gmail and forward it over there. And then you just come back and you mash that refresh. Mash that refresh. Okay, here's our Amazon order. These parsers are gonna work as long as the format of the confirmation is the same. Stuff like this forward header there, it's smart enough to see around that. But because all of the Amazon confirmations are the same or have the common structure, set this up once, it'll work for any of them. So what little bitties we want to take from this? Well, there's a date here, but I think I'd rather use the date of that email confirmation. So the date the email gets forwarded to the parser. I'm just gonna use that date. We probably want an amount. So here we got order total. I'm gonna select this, or just the number part, say amount, save. You'll see now there's little curly brackets and it's named amount. Let's grab this URL that will link us to the order in the future if we want to go back and look at it. So order URL, you can put this in the memo of the transaction. Save. What else? Anything else? I don't think so. That's probably fine. I scroll down here and say save address and template. So this guy ends in gal. Woo, okay. Making a new zap, and the trigger step is gonna be Parser by Zapier. So anytime a new email hits it, it's gonna trigger this whole sequence of steps. Connect your parser account, find your gal, test trigger. Okay, and I grab that one email that we already forwarded in there. Yep, 781. Continue. Let's draw that bad boy right into QuickBooks, shall we? We're gonna create an expense, but this could be any type of transaction, could be an invoice, could be a sales receipt. I'm not gonna tell you how to live your life, but given that this app's specifically for Amazon confirmations, we can make this pretty specific. So we're gonna name this specifically Amazon confirmation emails to QuickBooks. Payee type's going to be a vendor, because it's an expense. You're gonna select Amazon. Payment type, we can actually have it dynamically select which payment method you use, but this first example is the easy one. We're on the bunny slope still. Let's just say credit card. Choose which account, business checking, which totally makes sense with credit card. Then the only other thing you have to put in is the line item detail, like what account you want it to go to. So I'm gonna say office expense. I think in the description we'll drop the URL that we saved there. So anything you parse starts with this little preset parse. I'm gonna say parse. So it grabbed the order URL, and then we gotta put the amount in here. Parse output amount 781. And I think that's all you have to do. Let's hit continue. What's the worst that can happen? Test and review. Woo! Mission accomplished. Okay, let's hop over to QuickBooks and see what that looks like. Okay, there's our expense. Amazon office supplies, 781. We never actually put a date in, but what QuickBooks does is if you don't provide it with a date, it will default it to the current day. So payment date defaults to today's date if not specified. If you think about this in the context of how it will run, it's gonna run when the confirmation email gets sent. So that default date of today's day, I think is probably gonna be fine. If you had any concerns, you could point this to the date that the original email was sent, but this is good enough for me. So there we go. From an Amazon confirmation email to your QuickBooks. You set that up once, it's gonna work for every single purchase. Pretty neat. Second example we're gonna use is a Stripe confirmation. You have a ton of services, whether you realize it or not, that use Stripe, in which case that confirmation email will always look like this. We talked about this one a bit in the document management automation video, but here we're gonna look at how to actually post that to your QuickBooks. So we're gonna forward that into the email parser, and here we go. What are the details we want from it? Let's just grab the dollar amount, a link to the invoice URL. You can grab like invoice number, other stuff like that. But that's probably good enough for now. If you wanna grab an actual image of the attachments or the body of the email, check out that other document management video that I did. Okay, we're gonna save this template. This one ends in TNHR. So when you go back to Zapier, we're looking for PQ02. So now our trigger step is gonna be mapped to that PQ02 mailbox. And all you're gonna do is set up your QuickBooks expense to use the amounts from that previous parse step. Pretty easy, right? Those two examples largely the same, but hopefully gets you thinking about really anything that's in an email you can map directly to your QuickBooks file. That's a really powerful unlock. Okay, last example. Here we're gonna use for reference a confirmation generated from QuickBooks Payments. This is a payment to Logan Graff's firm for liking all my tweets. This email's got a few useful things. It's got the amount, but it's also got the last four of the payment method that you used. And I'm gonna show you how to dynamically set up that Zap to post to QuickBooks with the correct payment method. Okay, I'm gonna set up a third and final parser mailbox, forward it over there. Okay, let's grab the amount and let's grab the last four digits of the payment method. Save the address and template, looking for OX4. Let's set up our OX4 trigger here. Continue, just gonna grab that example email we sent in. Here we go, QuickBooks Payments. Now, rather than having this create expense in QuickBooks step next, we're gonna wipe that one out. We're gonna use something called Paths by Zapier. This lets you set up branching logic inside of Zapier. So by default, we've got two paths here, but you can add even more paths if you want. Let's assume you've got two payment methods and create the conditions for going down this first path. I'm gonna hit edit, and we'll name this card ending in 7404. Here's where you set up the conditions that will make it go down that path. So we're gonna choose the field from that first step. I think we called it method. Here we go, parse output method, and here's the last four, 7404. If that exactly matches 7404, then it's gonna go down this path. In this case, your path would have continued using the test data from that first step. Now, after this, what are we gonna do? We're gonna add that create expense step from QuickBooks. Create an expense, only difference is when we get to which account you use, it's gonna select that credit card account. Now, to set up the other path or any number of additional paths, I'm gonna hit the little home icon up here and you can define all these other paths. So if we got a checking account, we can set up the logic for that. If you have a third account, you can create a third path for that. And down each of those paths, you set up the QuickBooks expense creation steps that will use that payment method. That's it. That's how you build account-specific logic into that email. Now, if you really wanted to get fancy, let's say you use something like Divvy and you have team members that spend with cards based on budgets. Maybe you've got an office expense budget, an advertising budget. When that confirmation comes through for an advertising card spend, for example, that Zap could plop that stuff into the advertising account rather than office expense. Pretty neat, huh? A great thing to keep in mind here, many services don't integrate in a helpful way. For example, confirmations from a government agency, maybe garnishment payments. Any service that doesn't integrate with your accounting file, in most cases still generates a boilerplate email. And for you, enlightened accountant, that boilerplate email is as good as an integration because you can build your own custom integration around those boilerplate emails. Any data you can pump into an email, you can grab and post automatically to any of your API connected systems, QuickBooks being just one example. How cool is that? I love this stuff. If you geek on this stuff, I highly recommend checking out my accountant community where IMHO, the most savvy accountants in the profession, are collaborating. I'm building stuff just like this right now. Learn more about that community over at rlz.io and check out this whole playlist we've got of Let's Build a Things. Test, test, test. wiggling around, looking around, crinkle test, test. Did I start recording? I'm pretty sure I did. Okay, let's grab the, whoop, any crinkles, twisty, twist, crinkle test. The last 4 of the payment method that you used. Oh my gosh, somebody's right about it.